for Obama said experience mattered to them. Now, what about Hillary Clinton voters? She said she wanted change too, but the top quality for her supporters around the country was experience. Almost half of them said that's what they were looking for. They found her to be a candidate of experience. Change registers here, 29%, but it falls behind experience. She, of course, made the argument very often that she offered change as well as Obama. Let's shift to the Republicans. What were the top qualities for the various Republican supporters? And here, we just have them listed for each supporter. For the Mike Huckabee supporters, they wanted a candidate who shares their values. For the Mitt Romney supporters, a candidate who shares their values. Both of them competed among those famous values voters in the Republican Party. But McCain voters were different. They supported John McCain, they said, because they were looking for a candidate with experience. McCain is 71 years old. He's been in Washington a long time, and he has a great life story. Experience is his calling card. Wolf?
Bill, thanks very much for that. Joining us now to talk about these exit poll numbers and a lot more, our senior political analyst, Gloria Borger, Jack Cafferty, and our own senior analyst, Jeff Toobin, all part of the best political team on television. Change versus experience. A lot of Democrats out there, they really want change right now.
Yeah, and did you see the marks that Obama's, the exit voters, the exit polls gave Obama on experience? 3%. So, I mean, he got overwhelming for change, very low, and she, Hillary, kind of split those two qualities.
This is consistent all across what we've seen so far. The Democrats especially, they want change more than they necessarily want experience.
And the Republicans seem to like experience, and so that could be, obviously, setting up the general election. Well,
we have a wide disparity between Barack Obama, if he's the nominee, and John McCain, not just in age, but you have, John McCain, who's been in the Senate for 20-plus years, and Barack Obama, who's been there for 4. I mean, that is a big, big difference. But Democrats clearly just don't care. A
lot of Democrats take a look at the experience that many of the president's top advisors had, whether it's Dick Cheney or Donald Rumsfeld, and they say not necessarily all that important, all those 30 or 40 or 50 years of experience.
They make a good point, don't they, when you take a look at how those careers have turned out and how popular people like Dick Cheney are today. I just think the mood of the country is so turned off on the status quo that, that Pinocchio could get elected if he said, I'm going to change things.
Well, Obama's argument is that it's not about experience, it's about judgment. And that while Hillary Clinton may have more so-called experience, although he doesn't even give on that one, he says he had the judgment to be against the war, whereas she did not. And she says, I have the experience to know how to make change. And we'll see if the voters buy that one tonight.
How will we define victory tonight? First of all, on the Democratic side.
That is a very hard question, and you can be sure that the candidates are going to try to define it in the terms that helps them. There are two issues here. There's who wins the popular vote in all of these states. That is clearly one measure. The other measure, of course, is who wins the most delegates, and those might be different. And that is going to be the struggle. I think, it's our obligation to point out to people that obviously the delegates are what determines the nomination. But, in terms of momentum going forward, who wins each state is obviously going to have quite an impact as well.
I think whoever wins California on the Democratic side can say they won, and they're going to say they won, whether in fact they did or not.
Because that's the biggest prize out there.
Of course, sure. and they get, what, a 35% premium based on winning the popular vote in terms of delegates.
Well, what if somebody wins California, the popular vote, narrowly, let's say,
right,
but at the same time there's roughly an even split among the delegates?
Well, I think there'll probably be an even split at the end of the night among the delegates. I don't see either Obama or Hillary running away with the delegate count at the end of the night. It looks like, for example, in New Jersey, Obama's giving Hillary a run in her backyard. She's running well in New York. I think at the end of the night, there's going to be pretty close to a dead heat. But I still think the winner in California can say, I won.
I think so, too. I think there's going to be a colossal argument over electability. And there's going to be a lot of spin talking about that because California, more than any other state, makes the case for electability, particularly for a Democrat, but also for a Republican like John McCain, to see if he can finally get those Republican voters. If a candidate, however, runs the table and wins 15 out of 22 states, states, you're going to have to say they have some momentum. But I don't think you can make any serious judgment unless that happens until you hear about California.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, I mean, they are going to have to just go on and on and on. You've got Louisiana over the weekend, and then the Potomac primary next Tuesday. And I think the schedule, by and large, shapes up pretty well for Obama, because Louisiana, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, the next four really do look like good states for him.
He's also got a lot of money. That's going to help.
And he's raised a lot more money in January
than
Hillary Clinton, which suggests either she's tapped out with all of her big-time contributors earlier, or he's got something going on.
Yep.
Guys, stand by. We're going to continue this conversation. He's one of her oldest and sharpest critics. So why is Rush Limbaugh saying he'd rather see Hillary Clinton win the election than John McCain? And why is there so much interest around the world in the U.S. presidential race? Jack Cafferty will be back with your email. Stay with us. You're in The Situation Room. The conservative radio talk show host Rush Limbaugh is underscoring his deep dislike of John McCain, saying he'd rather see Hillary Clinton win the election. Let's get back to the best political team on television. Jack, I'll read to you what Rush told Howard Kurtz of the Washington Post in today's Washington Post. If I believe the country will suffer with either Hillary, Obama, or McCain, I would just as soon the Democrats take the hit rather than a Republican causing the debacle. And I would prefer not to have conservative Republicans in the Congress paralyzed by having to support, out of party loyalty, a Republican president who is not conservative. What do you think?
What is wrong with him? No, I'll tell you, you know what it is? They hate McCain because McCain's a liberal. But the problems that this country, that the next president's going to have to deal with, have accrued on the watch of a conservative, evangelical Republican named George W. Bush. The war, the economy headed into recession, nothing done about entitlement programs, 50 million people without health care, immigration hasn't been touched. Rush Limbaugh is talking about the problems that a Democrat will have to deal with. They're created by the incumbent Republican president we have now. So I don't know what Rush is. Maybe
John McCain would take issue that he's a liberal, but go ahead.
I mean, he has an over an 80% rating from the American Conservative Union, so that's not a, that's not a liberal. I think what's going to be interesting to watch tonight, is whether Rush Limbaugh and other conservatives, like James Dobson, for example, have an impact on these voters who would either go to Mike Huckabee, for example, rather than vote for John McCain, or go to Mitt Romney, who's been positioning himself as the real conservative in this race. They may have an impact, or they may not. We don't know.
Limbaugh and those, the talk show screamers are also trying to preserve their own importance. Because if John McCain can prove that he can get elected president without them, who cares about them?
Well, but I would argue John McCain might be good for them because they can keep listeners,
Well, but they like to be powerful.
Yeah.
And if they are no longer the kingmakers, if John McCain can get the nomination and get elected president with Rush Limbaugh screaming about how terrible he is, who cares about Rush Limbaugh anymore?
The legacy of conservative, evangelical, right-wing Republican base is the whole list of things that I talked about a minute ago. I mean, the country's up to here with that approach.
But it's not monolithic anymore. Yeah. That's the point. No one person carries that power. Can I remind you that Pat Robertson endorsed Rudy Giuliani, and that went absolutely nowhere.
Didn't do him a lot of good.
Did not do him a lot of good.
Either one of them, actually.
So evangelical conservatives care about a lot of things. They care about the environment. They care about the war. They care about the death penalty. They care about lots of issues. And sometimes they disagree with conservative leaders in their party, like Rush Limbaugh.
Because of Bush, they have no clout this time around.
But that's a change from 2004.
Absolutely.
2004.
The converse, though, of what you said earlier is that if, in fact, John McCain does not sort of wrap it up tonight, they will then say, you know what?
Yep.
Our influence among the conservative radio talk show hosts is a lot more serious than some of these Republicans think.
But they still have yet to settle on a candidate to challenge John McCain.
And a lot of them are settling on sort of on Romney to a certain degree.
But Huckabee's still there, making McCain's nomination that much more likely.
On the social issues, not necessarily on the economic issues.
But on the social issues,
on the social issues,
much more appealing to the right wing.
Right, absolutely. Define victory for the Republicans tonight.
Well, I think it's easier to define victory for the Republicans because there are more winner-take-all contests. So if you win a few big states, you can gather enough delegates to put you on the road to victory. And that's exactly what John McCain is looking for.
Because New York and New Jersey, those are winner-take-all.
Yep,
California
winner-take-all
is not
states.
necessarily
No.
the same way. All right, guys,
No.
thanks very much. You're not going. We're going to be here all night. Jack, stand by for a second. I want to go to Chad Myers. There's a breaking news story we're following down in Memphis. Tornadoes, Chad?
Yes, actually one hit about 15 minutes ago in Bartlett, just to the north and northeast of Memphis. Now one is on the ground in the southwestern and southeastern suburbs of Memphis. This has been confirmed on the ground, making damage in northern Mississippi, and it is still on the ground, moving into Memphis at this time. Over into Clinton, Arkansas, a major tornado on the ground in your county, moving right up into the Clinton town. Maybe 25,000 people in this warned area. We do know that this is a large tornado on the ground, Wolf. You need to be taking cover if you see a big storm in your area. All these storms could be rotating tonight.
Chad, thanks very much. Chad Myers watching these sort of the extreme weather story unfolding right now. We'll update our viewers as we get more information. With primaries and caucuses taking place coast to coast today, we've been receiving eye reports from viewers all across the country who are voting. In fact, eye reports even around the world. Let's go to our internet reporter, Abby Tatton, to show us some of these pictures. What are we seeing, Abby?
Well, we're still getting these in the last couple of hours before the polls close. Let's go first to California, where the pictures we've been seeing a lot of are Obama supporters getting their message out today. This is from John Lara, who's in the northern part of the state, but this kind of thing above the highway seems to be a theme today. This is from Hollywood, California, where Adam Lorbison in this picture, he was stuck in traffic. The Obama supporters making sure that everyone who was on Highway 101 waiting there this morning could see who they were supporting. It's a slightly less congested view out here in Colorado, where caucuses are going to be starting in a couple of hours. Diane Campbell says despite shoulder height of snow, she's still going to try and get out there and caucus for Mitt Romney. She thinks she has to walk the 1.5 miles to get there. We're also getting pictures coming in from around the world. Democrats abroad have started their voting today. 33 countries. There are 7 votes at stake at the convention in Denver. This is the Foreign Correspondents Club in Bangkok, Thailand, where they had about 200 people vote. The pictures are all coming in at cnnpolitics.com, and that's where we're going to be looking to see the results come in a couple of hours. Wolf?
Abby, thanks for that. Let's bring back Jack. He's got the Cafferty file. Jack.
Question this hour is why is there so much interest around the world in this year's U.S. presidential race? And there is a tremendous amount. Garrison writes, the world's more interested in the presidential race because we've increased our interest in the world. We've mucked around so much in other countries' business that the outcomes of our elections have a direct bearing on their own futures. We need to take off our knee-high boots that we use to wait around in other people's business and start paying more attention to our own fiscal backyards. Philip in Germany, hi. Hi, Philip. In my European opinion, the people around the world are so interested in this year's race because they want a change in the U.S. Most Europeans are against the politics of Mr. Bush, and they're against the politics of the war. Brendan writes, our standing in the world's shaken. The world's looking to us to elect a president that can restore the once great view of America and the American people. Gabriel writes, as a Canadian, I feel my attention drawn to this election because I've seen how George Bush has not only crippled the states but ruined relations with Canada in many ways. David in Malta writes, I come from a very small country and most Maltese are living this election as if it's happening over here. America defines what happens around us, directly or indirectly. Democrats speak to the world. I'm afraid Republicans fight it. Judy writes, because the world wants to see if we're brave enough to elect a woman president like other parts of the world have. It's certainly time. Look at Lady Thatcher. There's also Germany led by a woman, and of course there are others. Why not us? And Arlene writes, the world's captivated by the 08 presidential race in this country because it's a circus, and everybody loves a circus. This is your circus today.
We got a ringmaster coming up. Thanks very much, Jack, for that. We're in the final hours of Super Tuesday voting right now. The polls in Georgia, by the way, will be closing just in a few minutes, right at the top of the hour coming up. We'll take a look at our multi-touch screen to show you what Huckabee and Romney have to do to stay in the race. Stay with us. You're in the Situation Room. We're still here in the Situation Room. We're counting down to the closing of the polls in Georgia. 9 minutes and 34 seconds to go. West Virginia has already had their convention. Mike Huckabee picking up all 18 Republican delegates there. Georgia about to close an important contest in the South. It'll give